right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this Village Board meeting to order on Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019, and ask if you'd all please rise and join the Village Board in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, in order to complete the seats and to have a full board for the remainder of our meeting, I would like to entertain a motion to move up the appointment item number 15, in the agenda to this point in our agenda.
Point of order. Do we need to do a roll call just to get us started?
I checked with
Okay, my apologies.
No, you know,
our
we
in-house
looked,
counsel.
yeah, just to be fair, we looked at how we've done this before,
Okay.
and we've done it before at this point.
Just seemed we would be voting without being here, but okay.
Roll call's just a formality anyhow.
Okay.
You can do the roll call, there's no harm in that.
No, I'm not. I just want to keep us on record.
We do need a motion to move the appointments agenda item to this point.
So move.
By Trustee LaBedz, seconded by Trustee Tinaglia. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Well, with the vacancy created by the resignation of a longtime village trustee Tom Glasgow, I did have a decision to make, and I had a number of criteria that I considered to be highly important in making this very important decision for our community. And the criteria that I looked at were: one, the individual needed to be highly respected both inside and outside the community. Second, the individual needed to have a reputation for honesty and integrity and character that was second to none. Third, the individual needed to share the same philosophy as this village board, and to be someone who would work well with not only this village board but also the village staff. And fourth, I was looking for an individual that would be able to hit the ground running as a result of their involvement in the community and established relationships with other local governmental bodies and organizations within the village. We're very blessed in the village of Arlington Heights to have many individuals who fulfill those criteria. But the individual who was at the very top of my list was Greg Padavani. And I was very fortunate, after consultation with the remaining members of the village board, that they felt the same way. And so with the unanimous concurrence of the village board, at least from my prior consultation with them, we felt that this was the right thing to do for the village of Arlington Heights. And it really short-circuited the process when the individual at the top of your list says yes. And so we're very fortunate that Greg said yes and is here tonight to fulfill his duties now as a village trustee. So I would wholeheartedly recommend Greg Padavani for appointment to the vacant position as Arlington Heights Village Trustee, and would entertain a motion to concur in that appointment.
So moved. Second.
A motion by Trustee Tinaglia, seconded by Trustee Rosenberg. Comments from the board? Trustee Sidor?
I was going to make the motion, but that's okay. So, Mayor, I concur with you 1,000% on this one, and the residents of Arlington Heights, if they don't know Greg, they're in good hands. As I've told Greg, and I've told this story to a few people, 6 years ago maybe, Mike Schrader, the late Mike Schrader, a former Wheeling Township supervisor and all-around great guy, and I, took Greg Padavani to Palm Court, tried to twist his arm to run for office back then, and he said no. He liked his veteran work. He thought about it, but he liked working with the veterans in the parades. I'll keep this short, Mayor. So when the mayor called me, I was driving back from Wisconsin. He said, I want to talk to you about this appointment. And I was listening to his criteria, and he mentioned a couple names, and I was waiting for him to get to the punchline. And when he mentioned Greg Padavani, I said, well, did he say yeah? Because he told us no, like 6 years ago. And the mayor said yes. Greg said yes. And I couldn't have been more happy. So Greg and his wife Shar. It's going to be an awesome pleasure serving you with this short time that I have left on this board, and just a great choice by the mayor. Thank you, Mayor, for taking the time and putting out a criteria that I think we could all agree with for whoever you would choose. But as you said, Greg was on the top of the list, and I wholeheartedly agree. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from board? Trustee Tinaglia.
Well, I too, Mayor Hayes, have been blessed to know Greg over the past 6 or 7 years, and everything you said a moment ago is true about Greg. He is all about this community, and he is all about taking the right steps forward for all the right reasons. And I am confident that sitting next to him here is going to make our board a better board with his input and his insight. So I am thankful that you thought of Greg, and I'm more thankful that Greg said yes. So bring it on.
All right, thank you. Anybody? Trustee Blackwood.
I remember when you first asked me about this, Mayor Hayes, and I think the very first thing that I said was, that's perfect. And I still feel that way. I, too, have known Greg for a very long time. He helped in my campaign, and I certainly look forward to his years going forward and the level of and quality of service that he'll bring to the village. I thought it was the very best of recommendations, and I'm glad he said yes.
Trustee Scaletta.
I don't want to go into too much, but Greg has been just a fantastic contributor to the village. He is somebody that when someone needs help, and if you think that Greg can help, he always says yes. And he has now said yes to helping all the residents of the village of Arlington Heights by giving his time to serving on this board. He is a man of impeccable character, and I look forward to working with him on the board. Mayor, I think that even if you had the entire village vote, that Greg would get all the votes because he just has touched so many people throughout the community that in everything he does is very methodical, and he's just very, very patient with how he pulls it all off, and he makes it look very, very simple when it's not. Try and put together all of the Memorial Day parade presentation at that park and try and get all of those adults to do exactly what you want them to do. Not an easy task, so looking forward to serving with Greg.
Trustee LaBedz.
Thank you. I, too, am looking forward to serving with Greg. Sometimes it's just the right time. And I think for Greg, that when you approached him, Mayor Hayes, it was the right time, and we all are the better for it. And I am really excited for this board, for the village, to have you join us. And a little known fact that Greg and his wife, Shar, are also pretty good at team trivia. So he'll be an even better enhancement for the board. So thank you for bringing his name forward.
Thanks. Trustee Rosenberg.
Thank you, Mayor. I concur with all the comments that are made. Greg's a great asset to the community, and I've known him for a long time working with the chamber, and he's done a lot of events and activities and been very involved with the chamber and the community through that, as well as his work with the veterans and everything, and he gives everything 100, as Mike said, 1,000%, and so I think he'll be a great addition. So welcome aboard, Greg. Thank you.
Just a little bit more about Greg. Greg and his wife, Shar, have lived in Arlington Heights since 1982 and raised their children in the community. Greg is the president and founder of Penn's Communications Systems and is also a U.S. Army veteran, having served in the Medical Services Corps. He is a past board member of the Arlington Heights Chamber of Commerce and Arlington Heights Park District Foundation, chairman of the Veterans Memorial Committee, the Memorial Day Parade and Ceremony Committee, and local American Cancer Society Relay for Life. He's also a member of the Arlington Heights Volunteers in Police Service, or VIPS, and his many awards and accomplishments include the Arlington Heights Chamber of Commerce Business Leader of the Year for 2017 and Volunteer for 2011, and a Village of Arlington Heights Heart of Gold recipient in 2012, and most recently, He was one of 200 military veterans in the state of Illinois to receive the Illinois Bicentennial Honor 200 Award, honoring, again, 200 military veterans around the state who have contributed to their communities in one way or another, primarily through volunteer service since their military service, and so a really high honor for Greg. So many, many accomplishments, and we very much appreciate his willingness to serve. I do have one blue card before we go to the swearing in, and that's from Mr. Keith Mowens. Mr. Mowens.
Thank you all. Good evening. My name is Keith Moons. I live in Arlington Heights. I'd like to pass a comment along tonight about about appointing trustees to vacant board seats. My comments are about essentially the lack of formal public input into this process of appointing a trustee to fill board vacancies. So accept my comments tonight on the process of this appointment, not at all on the qualifications of the candidate that's chosen. So please, it's on the process only. I don't dispute the authority the president has to appoint a trustee replacement. The municipal code says very clear that because of when trustee Glasgow decided to and chose to resign, the president must appoint a replacement to the vacant trustee position within 60 days. That was from January 1st to February 28th, and then the board had another 30 days to approve that appointment. Unfortunately, though, it appears that this decision was already made long before January 1 even. In other words, the position was essentially filled before most of the residents in town even know there was an opening on the board. There was no public posting of this vacancy, no formal request for resumes of interested, qualified residents for candidates to interview. To note, there are hundreds of qualified candidates that live in our town of Arlington Heights. So President Hayes, I think, talking to your friends and neighbors and existing board members, it does not constitute getting formal public input into this decision. In my opinion, I think the president should have exhibited some restraint here, and for the sake of community involvement and public input, formally interview many candidates for this open trustee vacancy. The president had until February 28th. Finally, though, I do trust that your appointment tonight will be an open-minded individual with new thoughts and ideas, and I trust that he will represent all residents of Arlington Heights, those that are both above and below the median income line in town. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Mr. Mowens. All right, with that, Greg, why don't you come forward?
Motion. Mayor?
Motion.
Was there?
sorry?
I don't think there
You
was
have a
actually a
motion.
motion to concur.
To approve.
It's a motion to concur in the appointment.
Motion to concur in the appointment. We need a roll call?
I don't think anybody actually made the motion.
Yeah,
I did.
Okay.
Let's
Tinaglia
reflect
and
that again.
Rosenberg.
It's trustee Tinaglia,
Seconded
seconded
it.
by trustee.
Trustee Rosenberg.
Rosenberg. Okay, then roll call.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Tinaglia.
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Baldino.
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta.
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood.
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz.
Yes.
Trustee Sidor.
1,000% yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Okay, now, Greg, if you come forward, let's make it official. If you'd raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your full name.
I, Greg Padavani,
Having been appointed to the office of village trustee
having been appointed to the office of village trustee
in the village of Arlington Heights,
in the village of Arlington Heights,
in the county of Cook,
in the county of Cook,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office according to the best of my ability.
of the office according to the best of my abilities.
We know you well, Greg. Congratulations. Now, to make it further official, we are going to present you with an Arlington Heights logo pin, which is a symbol of your dedicated service to this community. And I must tell you that this pin comes from the collection of Trustee Mike Sidor. And so I know you will wear it proudly, so let me give you that. I'm going to have you make some remarks, but then after that, you will need to sign your oath in front of our village clerk. So, Greg, if you would.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, trustees. Boy, did you embarrass me. But it was wonderful that I have the opportunity to serve the village of Arlington Heights. My wife, Shar, and I have been so very, very fortunate to live here, to raise our family here, and I'm very honored and very humbled to serve our community, all the people of our community, and I'm looking forward to doing that in any way I can. So thank you very much for your confidence and your support, and I'll look forward to serving you in the future. Thank you.
Okay, now, would the clerk please call the roll?
Excuse me. Trustee Sidor.
Here.
Trustee Scaletta.
Here.
Trustee LaBedz.
Here.
Trustee Padavani. Here. Trustee Tinaglia.
Here.
Trustee Rosenberg.
Here.
Trustee Baldino.
Here.
Trustee Blackwood.
Here.
President Hayes.
Here. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes, and we have three sets of minutes to approve tonight. The first is from the committee of the whole meeting from January 7, 2019. Are there any changes or passes?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by trustee Blackwood, seconded by trustee LaBedz. Pass from,
Greg Padavani.
all right, trustee Padavani. And any other passes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And next, the minutes from the village board meeting from that same evening. Any changes or passes?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by trustee Tinaglia, seconded by trustee Scaletta.
And Padavani will pass.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And finally, the minutes from the committee of the whole meeting from January 14, 2019. Any changes or passes?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by trustee Blackwood, seconded by trustee LaBedz. Passes?
I will pass again.
All right. If no other passes, then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we'll move on to the approval of the accounts payable, and I call on trustee Rosenberg.
Thank you, Mayor Hayes. I'd move approval of the warrant register with a check date of 1/15/2019 in the amount of $3,032,652.79.
Second.
Motion to approve by trustee Rosenberg, seconded by trustee Scaletta. Any questions or comments from the board? Anything from the audience? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Rosenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta.
Yes.
Trustee Baldino.
Yes.
Trustee LaBedz.
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood.
Yes.
Trustee Padavani.
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia.
Yes.
Trustee Sidor.
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Move on then to citizens to be heard, and I have no blue cards for anyone who wishes to address the board on items not on the agenda. So seeing none, we'll move on to old business, and we do have items to report out from our meeting from the committee of the whole meeting on January 14, 2019, and I'd first call on trustee Baldino.
Thank you, Mayor. I move this evening, as I did on January 14th, that the village board recommend the staff move forward with the Phase 1 parking improvement implementation plan items, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 2.0, 3.2, 9.1, and 9.4, with consideration of comments from the Committee of the Whole, and continue to evaluate recommendations 3.1 and 7.2.
Second.
A motion to approve by trustee Baldino, seconded by trustee Blackwood. Questions or comments from the board? And
Mayor?
anything from the audience? Trustee Sidor.
Just for the record, Mayor, I'm very happy with these Phase 1 improvements, and also happy about the public participation over many months and the village's communication with the public in general to get input on the parking situation in the downtown area. There are some people who think we don't have public participation, but I'm very proud of our public participation on this matter. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any further comments from the audience? Seeing none. We do have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, items from our meeting from earlier this evening, and I'd first call on Trustee Tinaglia.
Thanks, Mayor Hayes. Tonight, I'd like to move to concur in the mayor's appointment of Andrew Stengren to the Arlington Economic Alliance for a residential real estate vacancy with a term ending of 4/30/21.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Tinaglia, seconded by Trustee Scaletta. Any questions or comments from the board? Anything from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, Andy, where are you at? If you come forward, if you would, to the podium. And we'll just make it official. If you'd raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your full name.
I, Andrew Stengren,
Having been appointed to the Arlington Economic Alliance
having been appointed to the Arlington Economic Alliance
in the village of Arlington Heights,
in the village of Arlington Heights,
in the county of Cook,
in the county of Cook,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office according to the best of my ability.
of the office according to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations. We know you will as well. Won't you come forward? And to make it official for you as well, Andy will present you with the logo pin. And congratulations, and if you would sign your oath of office over there. We're looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda from old business from our meeting from earlier this evening is a recommendation for approval of a liquor license, and I call on Trustee Scaletta.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would move now, as I did earlier this evening, to recommend that the Village Board of Trustees recommend to the Liquor Commissioner the issuance of a Class D liquor license to 3435 North Kennecott LLC, doing business as Arlington Lanes, located at 3435 North Kennecott, upon proof of meeting all outstanding eligibility requirements, as well as the surrender of the current liquor license issued to this address.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Scaletta, seconded by Trustee Baldino. Any questions or comments from the board? Anything from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, congratulations to the new owners of Arlington Lanes, and we wish you continued success. You've been in the village a long time, so we wish you, again, much success on the north side of our village. So congratulations. All right, there is no other old business. We'll move on then to the consent agenda. Are there any members of the board who wish to remove an item on the consent agenda? Seeing none, any members of the audience who wish to remove an item on the consent agenda? Seeing none, are there any members of the board who wish to vote no or pass on any item on the consent agenda?
I will pass on both items.
Okay.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Trustee Tinaglia, seconded by Trustee Scaletta. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Tinaglia.
Yes.
Trustee Scaletta.
Yes.
Trustee Padavani is a pass. Trustee LaBedz.
Yes.
Trustee Rosenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Sidor.
Yes.
Trustee Blackwood.
Yes.
Trustee Baldino.
Yes.
President Hayes.
Yes. Move on then to new business. We have two items to consider tonight. The first is sign variations for Arlington Town Square, located at 70 South Arlington Heights Road. Is the petitioner present? Why don't you come forward? And just introduce yourself if you would.
Earl Major, Shive Hattery Architects.
Can you just tilt that microphone up a little bit? You're a little bit far. You don't have to bend over, but you could just tilt it up a little bit. We have your materials, but tell us what you're looking to do here.
It's for exterior enhancements of the site. We'll be adding some signage, some wayfinding, just some updating of our current sign package on the site.
Okay, Mr. Enright, do you have any comments?
I'll just briefly go through the variations sought. The Design Commission did review these and recommended approval of the various sign variations. Staff is very much in support of these variations. I believe they've met the justification requirements to better enhance the visibility and the identity of the shopping center by adding additional signage identifying the shopping center's Arlington Town Square, as well as additional signage to enhance the courtyard shops. They're also doing some neat things like a mural on the wall off the plaza here facing Arlington Heights Road, as well as some overhead lighting to create some ambiance. The variations include two signs, or actually where we only allow one ground sign on Arlington Heights Road. They want to have two small signs in the entrance off of Arlington Heights Road that we only allow one typically. And they're very small signs in the planter boxes. And typically, ground signs have to be separated by 800 feet. These are only 40 feet away. But they're very tastefully done, and you'll get the name of the shopping center facing Arlington Heights Road, which has never been the case in the 20 or so years it's been there. The courtyard sign, directory signage, they have a directory sign just to the east of the entrance of the movie theater that delineates what businesses are back in the courtyard that you have to kind of meander to the east of the side of the theater, where you have Wild Fish and Noodles and Company and a couple other businesses. So they want to increase the size of that sign on the wall. It's a very large wall there because it's to the left of the theater entrance marquee. So they want to create better visibility there and change the sign above the courtyard to courtyard shops. The town square fountain, there's the fountain above and in between the businesses that are next to the, for instance, the Starbucks. They want to have a Arlington Town Square identification sign there, so you need a variation for that. That'll be great because you can see it really from Arlington Heights Road. Certainly when you turn in, it'd be kind of hard to see it from Arlington Heights Road going, the speed that traffic goes, but it'll be good as an entry into the center to identify it. So they do need a variation for that. They're also going to enhance the office center signage. They have offices on the second floor at the north end of the development. The entrance into the lobby of the offices upstairs and the elevator is pretty understated. They're going to enhance that visually, which I'll show here in a second. And they need to get a couple small variations to identify that area with a canopy over the entry. These are the locations of the various sign variations. We don't really need to go in these existing conditions. They want to add a public parking sign for the garage off of Evergreen, which is something that we've recently looked at with the board with the parking signage in Arlington Heights downtown. This would be a private sign, says public parking. There's two P signs on either side of this that are currently smaller and affixed to the buildings, the outlots, and are not very visible. So they're going to do two blade signs, 9 square feet each, that project out. So we think this will be a much better identification feature. We'll continue to work with the petitioner on the coloring of the signage, the public parking letters. We got some feedback from the board on some of the signage we want to do in our downtown garages to make sure those are clearly visible. So we'll make this match what we're doing in our downtown. So there might be some slight modifications to the coloring on the letters. The sign above there, Arlington Town Square, is a permitted sign. That again will better identify the shopping center to Evergreen Avenue and the main entrance to the garage that goes underground. These are the signs in the planter boxes. They're kind of hard to see here, but there'll be there's two very nice planter boxes there. There'll be two very small signs, one in each planter box. We only allow one right now. The courtyard shops, they're going to, right now it just says courtyard. They're going to change the sign to courtyard shops. That previously received a variation years ago, so this is just an aesthetic change. It doesn't need a variation. And then to the right, you can see the listing of the businesses with the gray and white lettering that identifies some of the businesses that are tucked back around that courtyard. It'll be a much bigger sign, but still not that big, 67 square feet from the present 13 square feet, which is inadequate to see from the parking areas. Some of the neat things they're doing in the plaza that runs perpendicular to Arlington Heights Road adjacent to Noodles and Company is the wall of the theater, the east-facing wall, is brick right now, and they want to do some sort of decorative mural. It will not be an advertising sign. It will just be some sort of aesthetic art piece that they want to change periodically. The Design Commission recommended that come back to staff just for a review when they finalize it, to make sure it isn't a sign, which it won't be. It's just a decorative feature. They also want to string some overhead lights and do pedestrian light ceiling in the plaza, which will really activate this area. This is the Arlington Town Square sign that they want to do above the existing plaza, anchored between the two columns that will face east. So as you come in off of Arlington Heights Road, you'll see that up ahead to identify the shopping center. This will need a variation to allow it. It's 45 square feet, so it's not overly big, but it'll certainly add some interest to that backdrop to the fountain, in addition to identifying the center. And this is the office center right now on the left. You can see it's pretty understated. There's a small awning there that says office center. They want to enhance the visibility of the entry and make it more prominent, which we think is a great idea. They would have a canopy hanging out over the entrance with the identification feature above office center, which requires a variation. This is just a list of the variations that I just went over. Don't need to go over that. The Design Commission was in favor of it. A couple recommendations just to check with staff on some of these things once they implement it, to make sure they fit in visually with some of the existing conditions, but nothing major. So staff is fully supportive of the variations, and that would conclude my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Enright. Anything to add to that?
No, sir.
Okay. Questions from the board? Trustee Tinaglia.
Welcome, thanks. I think everything you've proposed here looks wonderful to a center that I think really, really needs some help like this. So your owners, you're the architect for the project, correct?
Yes, sir.
I think kudos to them for thinking this way and getting this done. I do have one question. It occurs to me that the one sign that we didn't talk about here is the theater sign. There's a sign above. It's on the north face of one of the buildings here, and it points to Arlington Theaters. And I'm wondering, that's not even accurate anymore. It's not really Arlington Theaters, right? The ownership has changed. I think it's supposed to be lit. It's not lit. There's electric work, I guess, that needs to be done. And it's a sign that I know went through an enormous scrutiny back a number of years ago, and I would love for your firm and this ownership to get together and work on that sign, make something happen there, because it needs some attention, and it should be better than it is. So it's not appropriate the way it is right now, doesn't work the way it is right now, and you're doing such a wonderful job with everything else. That's something that, boy, could we get that improved? I would love to hear, yeah. Yes.
Give us your name if you would.
Hi, Jim Sutphin, representing ownership of the shopping center. Just so you know, we have had this conversation a million times with the now new owner, CMX Theaters, and they are going to come in separately with a whole package of what they're going to do with the box office, and including that sign. So that's forthcoming.
We can expect to see something coming from
them directly.
How soon would you say that?
You know, they have told me that they are virtually done with their design, so they're going to be submitting it anytime soon.
Okay. Has Bill, has staff seen anything on this yet?
I'm not aware of anything regarding the signage package for the theater yet.
So this is news. This is new.
You know, I do recall. I think we're aware of it. Steve Hausinger works on it at our office. I've heard of that.
Okay. Well, again, just words of encouragement to do bigger, better, more, and I'm glad you're on it. Thanks.
Trustee Scaletta.
Thank you. I'm glad to see that you're improving the signage at the shopping center. It's needed for a long time, and it's always been a challenge for that center because it's kind of built backwards, number one. Number two, it's always been a challenge to get additional signage at that shopping center. And I like the strategic places that you're putting the signage, and I like that you're adding a brand to it. I understand it may not look like a lot to the naked eye, just having like a color in the corner, but I think it's a brand that I would hope that we're going to see more of. So it was good to see that. I like the fact that that there's going to be an art element there as well. I think that there are a tremendous amount of talented artists in town. We have an arts commission. We have lots of people in town that would be willing to work with the shopping center. So feel free to reach out to our staff as a resource to find these artists and to find even talk to the design commission or the design commission members. Actually, a member of the staff of the planning department that works with Bill is the staff liaison for the arts commission. So I'm sure that you'll have lots of opportunity with local artists, which sounds like what your intent was. The only question that I had, that I read all of the materials that were provided to us, including the design commission minutes. I'm not completely understanding the signage so you have the signage in the courtyard, and there's a sign at the top. And so what does the backside look like? That's the part I couldn't follow in the minutes. So if you're standing on Evergreen looking at the entrance to the parking garage, what do you see up top?
This one right here?
Yeah.
This one?
Right. So behind that, you won't see the sign. You won't see the back of the other sign?
No, it'll be a finished back, no branding on it, just finished perforated metal.
Okay. And the public parking signage, thank you for doing that. It's the village's garage, but you're making sure that people, if we can get more people to go down there and stop circling the top, it'll make everything much, much better. So thank you for what you guys are doing, and I'm in complete support.
Trustee LaBedz.
Thank you. I really like what you're doing. I was very impressed when I went through the materials and saw what it looks like. So thank you for bringing this forward. It definitely freshens it up, brings it up to 2019 as opposed to whatever year, 20 years ago when it was built, which it was very lovely then, but times change. I just have a quick question. It's not exactly a sign question, but I noticed, especially with the office center sign location, so you're going to do some facade changes too?
Yes,
To
ma'am.
complement, so the signs will complement the facade changes and updating?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. We'll either be using a cementitious or a metal panel system to update the facade and give it some accent, some pop.
Yeah, definitely. When you look at these two things, this picture, the existing and the proposed side by side, the proposed definitely pops, and I'm certainly in favor of the variation, this and the other variations requested. So thank you.
Trustee Baldino.
Thank you, Mayor. Bill, you answered the question that I was going to ask, but I think it deserves a little clarification for our constituents' point of view. We are intending to put a pole-mounted blades sign across the street from the underground parking lot.
Correct.
Right. And so that was why you said that public parking sign going to the underground parking, the intention is to have that match the design that we settle with on that pole-mounted blade sign.
Correct.
Okay. That was my question, because when I looked at this, this looked sort of similar, but not quite like what we had talked about last week. So I thought that was important, that it's going to match the aesthetics of what we're going to do for the rest of the downtown.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Trustee Sidor.
Just one quick question. Bill, could you go back to the office center entrance, please? And my question is, are you changing the roof line as well, or is that just an oversight by the,
We would square that parapet
they're going to square it up? Okay.
Yes.
Just curious. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Trustee Scaletta.
One follow-up question. I saw strands of lights, so can you go back? I believe that there's going to be, so there's some lights that are going to be out by the fountain?
Festoon lighting, yes, sir.
Okay. How many strands is that?
I would have to get a count on that. It's enough to accent the space, but not be overbearing. create a light issue, light pollution issue.
We have one of those too. So down the courtyard area, are there going to be lights down there as well?
Yes,
And those will go from the building back and forth?
correct.
Okay. All right, I have no other questions.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Seeing none, anything from the audience? Not, I'd entertain a motion to approve
So moved.
Second.
by trustee Tinaglia, seconded by trustee Sidor. If no further questions or comments, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, good luck to you.
Thank you.
And last, under new business, we have a land use variation amendment request and a request for variations from the European Crystal Hotel proposed at 519 West Algonquin Road. The petitioner is present.
Over there on the screen.
Just give us your name again, Mr. Casares.
It's James Cazares.
You can proceed.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the board, for allowing me to present again for the handful of times I've presented already. And I want to also thank Mr. Recklaus, Mrs. Ward, Mr. Perkins, Mr. Hubbard, Mr. Houtzinger, Mr. Enright for dealing with my persistence, or as my wife would say, annoyance. We now have a name for the hotel. I'm excited to present it. It's called the Shea Arlington. We're excited about that. Let me just get there. So we made a couple changes to the building as last presented. On the north elevation, the building was reduced in height. It was originally 90-plus feet. Now it's been reduced to 60 feet. The footprint of the building was made a little bit wider as well. The window sizes were made larger as well, 7-foot by 7-foot windows. But we're still coming with the same concept where we incorporate the building with the existing. Currently, our demolition is complete. I'm happy to announce that. And 100% of the demolition was sourced by local Arlington Heights companies. Mr. Recklaus was very nice to introduce me to some people here in the village, and I continue to work on the development of this building by using a majority of locally sourced companies. We'll also be the first to have something called New Brick. It is an extremely high exterior cladding system that is going to match seamlessly with the brick that is no longer manufactured. We have the south elevation, which is facing 90. We're incorporating some larger windows on the 6th floor, and we are going to be proposing a sign, which we preliminary presented to the Design Commission. On the site plan, there are a couple minor changes, but nothing too exciting to report. Lobby remains the same. The buildings are intertwined together. We still have a 2-story lobby, and we are going to have a stunning chandelier in our lobby that will be the first, I think, in the U.S. and first, it's a live chandelier which changes during the day and during seasons. So it will be a stunning piece of art. Artwork in the lobby is also being sourced by local artists. We continue to have our coffee shop and lobby sitting area on the 1st floor. We have our gym and business center as well, and we've put some ADA floor guest rooms on the 1st floor. Now we'll go up, we'll take the elevator. Each corridor will feature a mural by a local artist as well too. And the layout of our guest rooms. The rooms are longer, a little bit narrower. They're now 325 square feet. The ceiling heights have been increased. They're now over 10 feet high. We'll have triple pane windows in the rooms, wood floors throughout the room, and they're also incorporated into the restroom. We'll have a 70-inch TV, and then we have an amazing handmade California closet that will be in the guest rooms. Here is a little view. We have a small mini bar. Alexa, our friend, will be in the guest rooms. It'll actually control all of the lights and the motorized draperies. We'll have 400 thread count organic cotton sheets and terry. We'll be the only hotel to have 24-hour room service in the northwest suburbs. It's something that the Northwest Convention Bureau came and met with me and said, guests are desperately needing a hotel that has 24-hour room service. I said, well, that's something that we did downtown all the time. I said, I can figure that out. It's not a problem. And we will be the first in the suburbs to have a very innovative heating and cooling system that I presented downtown at my hotel. It's a VRF system where it will use the heating and cooling from different rooms and, and change it. So that will be extremely efficient and the first for the village and first for the suburbs. Our restrooms over here will feature a rainfall shower. The water closet is going to feature a 1 gallon per flush, very eco-friendly. And on my hunt to find someone to create our guest amenity, I actually had found a local Arlingtonian that will be designing and formulating the amenities in the guest room. It was not easy. Our 6th floor will be our rooftop. It has amazing views at 60 feet high. We'll feature small plates and signature crafted drinks. We'll host some wedding ceremonies up there as well as cocktail hours before the guests go down and retreat to the main ballroom. It'll be also exclusively for our guests. We are working with staff at this moment to propose a electronic retractable roof over this area, but it's still in the very preliminary stages. I took my drone up there and I took a nice little picture. It features stunning views of downtown Arlington Heights, of the traffic in O'Hare. You can even see downtown Chicago as well, and many of the surrounding communities over here. I'm already on the way to selling this hotel. I already have a handful of clients booked for 2020. This is one of my clients coming in June of 2020. They're a little bit concerned. I said, don't worry, I've done this once, I can do it again. They have over 60 guest rooms. They've booked my entire hotel. They have 220 guests in the grand ballroom, and all of them are going to be arriving through O'Hare and going to be using our complimentary Tesla shuttle service. In regards to parking, I've secured many of the off-site parking that I've presented before. I actually have my new neighbor, Safeguard, has allowed me to use our 5 parking spots. And Hamilton Partners, which is just down the street, which is actually under construction right now. I probably will finish this spring or summer. I'm in the works with, they have over 200 parking spots as well that's available. Thank you so much for allowing me to present. I would like to personally invite everyone, no more than 2 at a time, to come to my rooftop when it's complete. Seeing is believing, and I believe that after you see it, you'll allow me to open to the public. Thank you so much.
Right, thank you. Mr. Eckloff, Mr. Enright?
Mayor, I just have a couple items to quickly go over, variations regarding the project. The variations required include parking variation. The previous approval by the village board, the petitioner met code. They are required with this rooftop to have 249 spaces. They have 172 on site. However, they will also have 23 spaces for valet in case they ever have a peak time where everything's, where the banquet hall's highly utilized. However, staff's not concerned about that variation because there are a couple of conditions of approval that were suggested by staff and recommended by the Plan Commission, that the rooftop can only be used for either patrons who are staying at the hotel to go up and have a cocktail up there, or guests that are at the banquet hall that are already there anyway that might meander over to the rooftop, after, during the event. And the rooftop can then only be booked for outside events only if the banquet hall is not being used at the same time. So that will allow the petitioner to, not need these extra 78, 80 spaces by code, because we'll be restricting how that rooftop gets used. If when in the future the petitioner comes back to the village seeking relief from that recommendation, where they could use that rooftop in addition to the banquet hall, that would require an amendment to the land use variation, which would have to go through the public process. So we're not concerned at all about that, but technically, by the code, we have to publish it as a variation because he wants to build out that space, which I think will be a good amenity for the hotel and differentiate it from a lot of the hotels in the area. As I said, this went through the various commissions. I won't get into too much of the specifics here about parking and so forth and the proposal. There's a slight modification of the site plan. This building is a little bit wider and a little bit deeper than the previous plan that was approved by the board about 6 months ago. A little bit of a modification to the drive aisles and parking areas, nothing real significant, just some flip-flopping of some of the parking in the front, but nothing, again, major. One of the variations is for the drive aisle width out at the front of the site. It'll be 22 feet instead of 24. We don't see that as a significant variation for the cars to get in and out of there. Regarding the parking variation, here are the different components. The main banquet hall requires 113 spaces, and then the rooftop requires 26 for the indoor and 48 for the outside. The hotel itself requires 62 spaces, so that comprises the deficit. But again, with the conditions that are recommended, if approved by the board, would regulate that. As I mentioned, the 6th floor space could only be used for patrons of the hotel, as well as patrons utilizing the banquet hall. If he wants to book it for an outside event, then he won't be able to use the banquet hall concurrently. Overflow parking areas, the petitioner has several agreements in writing. They're basically letters. They're not, they do allow for the overflow parking for the banquet hall and subsequently the hotel. Those can be canceled at any time. So there is a condition from the previous approval from June that if they are canceled, the petitioner will work with the village if there are any parking issues to stagger times of events and so forth in case there is spillover, or secure other parking from other property owners in the area. At this point, I would just conclude my presentation and open it to the board.
Thanks, Mr. Enright. Well, Mr. Caceres, you definitely have been before us a number of times, but I personally want to thank you for your perseverance, because it really has resulted in a very unique, high-quality project that I think is going to be very exciting for the village of Arlington Heights. So, again, thank you for your perseverance and getting to this point tonight, and I'm very excited about the project. So I'd open it up for questions. Trustee Sidor.
James. You, if nothing else, you have been, in my 8 years up here, the most entertaining petitioner that,
It's a good thing or a bad thing. Charles has a different name for it.
well, maybe there was one time you weren't very entertaining, but, as I was reading these minutes, I even mentioned to Mayor Hayes, I was reading these minutes on Sunday morning, as I typically do, and I was just chuckling because I could picture your face answering these questions to the Plan Commission. And I think you did a good job. And so I'm saying, Uncle, I said, I think, okay, you've got everything covered. It comes with, positive recommendations. It looks very cool, and your passion is just oozing out of you. And if you're going to build this place anywhere, I want you to build it in Arlington Heights. So I am for this proposal. I think you'd be able to sort out the parking if there is an issue with parking. Are you okay with the conditions about that, the rooftop and limiting it? Be honest.
Honest, it's a work in progress. Unfortunately for Mr. Perkins and everyone else in the planning department, I'm maybe a little bit on the annoying side. I'd love to open it to the public, but I think they would be more comfortable with us taking baby steps. And this is something new for the village. It's something that no one, can foresee. I've done this before. My rooftop downtown was with over 3,000 residents, and Mr. Alderman downtown, Mr. Riley, had a nice little noose around my neck saying, if any of the old ladies complain, James, you're done. Your sign and your liquor license is gone. So I talked with Ms. Ward. I said, can you create some type of legal noose for me that if there's any complaints, you take it away? Well, we'll take it step by step. And
Because,
I'll be very happy to
I'm a little
represent.
I'm a little disappointed it's not open to the public because I have a few friends. Sometimes we like to gather together and have a meeting. It would be fun to do it on a rooftop like
I will be
that.
here very soon. As soon as those doors open, I will be presenting again.
Okay. But you are okay at this point in time. I know you're going to come back and you're going to say, I want to open it to the public, but for now, you're going to play by the rules, and
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think with Mr. Perkins.
that's just a yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to
Trustee
try to
Baldino.
trying to keep the minutes, easy for the, and then rooms look great, and as a person who works all the time, is there a desk in these rooms, or is it just a little table with the 2 chairs around?
The desk is out. The table is in. We
The
have the
desk
desk,
is
no one
out.
ever used it,
Okay.
so.
And I hope you have free Wi-Fi, right? Because if you're going to be a 5-star hotel, you have to have free Wi-Fi.
High speed.
High speed. I'm done. Mayor, thank you very much. Good luck. I hope that you pass this evening, and I hope you build a beautiful hotel for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Baldino.
Thank you, Mayor. I was supportive of this project back in June. I'm supportive of it again, and I'm glad to see that the rooftop lounge is back. Was that a green wall that I saw in the rendering in the?
There was, yes.
Okay. I thought that was also a nice feature to add to that outdoor space, and again, I'm supportive of this project. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Trustee Rosenberg, did you have something?
I'll let Trustee
Okay,
Blackwood
Trustee
go first.
Blackwood.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Mayor and Trustee Rosenberg. And James, I think that the hotel is very sophisticated. It's very chic. It's Chez Arlington. I think that it's something that we haven't had in the past. While our hotels have always been very stylish and certainly very utilitarian, this brings I think, as you mentioned a long time ago, it brings hoteliers up several levels, and I really congratulate you on that. And I, too, am in favor of the project.
Trustee Rosenberg.
Thank you. This is a question for Bill, but you can stay there, James. I might have some more. Bill, in the parking calculations on Exhibit 2, it carves out 26 for spaces for the interior and 48 spaces for the exterior. So what are those components? When you say interior, is that under roof on the roof, or?
Yeah, part of it as planned will be under roof, and then there will be a larger outdoor patio that Mr. Cazares is looking at possibly doing a retractable roof over.
Okay. So if we, under the current conditions, that space is only accessible to the guests or to another party, which would, then there wouldn't be a banquet. So that 74 spaces, if you take away from the parking requirement, that comes down to 174 spaces that we would need, if you don't count those?
That's correct.
So obviously then there's only a variation of 2. So from the standpoint of that calculation, maybe this is more toward James, when there is a banquet, in your opinion, if you're at the max, is 113 spaces sufficient to cover 377 people?
Yes, and the reason why it will be is because the weddings or events that I'm booking are the same people that are staying in the hotel. So we are counting, or double counting for the same people that are using these amenities.
But let's say you have an event that does not necessarily utilize hotel and it's just strictly a banquet, from a local person here. Let's say a group wants to come and not stay. For 377 occupancy, is 113 spaces sufficient?
I don't know if I understand the question.
No, it's not.
Okay.
But the 113 that you're looking at is just the code requirement.
Okay.
The surveys and the parking study that the petitioner's done in the past show for some of the events anywhere from 2.1 to 2.6 or 2.7 persons per auto. So, if it's the lower part, you'd need half as much as 377 if you had a full house. That doesn't happen very often. The petitioners testified and put in writing that it's very rare that they have that many people. It's typically closer to 200, 225.
Right, I think it was indicated you only like 4% of the year.
It's about 10 events a year.
Yeah. So one of the things that was kind of perturbed me was when you were asked about use of the Pace property as a facility for overflow parking, you indicated you would never use that.
I don't believe so.
So, based upon that statement, I almost discount or take away your agreement with them because you would never use it, correct?
I've been doing this for quite a while, and I'm very in tune with the industry. I really believe that even when the hotel is complete and we open to the public, that we can retain all of those parking spots and the demand for parking in our facility.
Okay. So you feel that without using the Pace, and let's say depending on the Hamilton thing that happens later on, that there's sufficient parking surrounding you on your side of the street that would be sufficient to cover your need if that arises?
I do, yeah.
Okay. Any idea roughly how many spaces are in those overflow areas on your side?
The total overflow with Pace was 470.
You
I
take
think
out
on my
Pace?
side it was around 200 and something.
Okay. Okay. Great. I also feel you've done a great job. You were, I guess it was a difficult chore the last 2 years or so.
3.
3 years, okay, sorry. It's gone by. And I appreciate all your amendments and concessions and things like that, but I think you have a great project here, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee LaBedz.
Thank you. Thank you, James, for your persistence. It seems to me you're getting really close to what you ultimately wanted in the first place. And reading through the Plan Commission minutes, it sounds to me like you're hoping this is going to be one of the first of many Shea hotels. So hopefully ours will be the first and the best. So I wish you well. I do have a couple questions that has to do with kitchen facilities. Is all your food preparation going to be done in the banquet hall on the first level and then brought up to the rooftop, or will you have kitchen facilities?
So we are planning to have a kitchen on the 6th floor.
Okay.
A majority, the mass of the work would be down at the main kitchen by the banquet, and then we're going to have a nice show kitchen that we would have up, making these small plates.
Okay, so
6th floor.
So you won't necessarily have to transport food.
No.
6 stories.
Unfortunately, at the last hotel, I had my kitchen on the 1st floor and the rooftop on the 16th, and I had to bring the food up and down. So the bento box was a solution for that, to transport it in a kosher manner. But here, we're going to have a wonderful show kitchen.
Okay, I just couldn't tell for sure from the renderings of that. And then the only other thing is it's kind of a comment about the furnishings in the rooms. It looks lovely, but my impression is there's not enough counter space or place to put your stuff. And that's something that you might want to think about in the bathroom. It's lovely, but I know as a user, if I go to a hotel and I have no other place to put my makeup and a hair dryer and all that, and there's just this little itty bitty counter around the sink bowl, or if you have one of the bowl sinks, it's even harder. Plus, inside the room, because there is no desk, and that one sort of etagere where you have the coffee service already has a coffee service. So you might think about people like me who have stuff they need to put out, and have a place to make it a little easier for the guests to use the room. So that's my suggestion. But overall, I'm very supportive, and hope you do very well.
Thank you. I'll next time I present, I will address that. And make those changes.
Well, I don't know you need to present that, but you need to think about it.
Will do.
Thanks.
Trustee Scaletta.
I guess the first question is, are you coming back sometime soon?
I counted on my finger about maybe 4 or 5 more times. But this is just a, sign and mini bar and a couple little things, retractable roof possibly.
We charge you by the visit.
You charge me, yes, you do.
All right. In all seriousness, thank you for your diligence, your due diligence. I know that this is a passion project for you, and that everything that you're trying to do, all the details, is only going to make it a better property. So kudos to you for your persistence. I'll call it that nicely. Let me ask you this though: why did you eliminate the 2 of the floors but have the same amount of rooms? What was the thought process behind that?
So originally the rooms were much wider. I think they were on 425 feet, and there was a lot of dead space in the room. So we end up kind of making it longer, as well as longer to accommodate, which you didn't see. We have some rooms that are going to have double beds, 2 double queens, as well as kind of eliminate that dead space. It's very expensive to build right now, and the difference was in the multi-millions to go from a mid-rise to a high-rise. So I had to, there was only so much revenue and so much income, so I had to kind of adjust a little bit.
Okay, that's fair enough. I have no other questions. I'm supportive of the project. I'm glad that we're getting close to the end.
I'm going to pick up my permit beginning of February. February 3rd, to be exact. It's waiting for me.
Aren't you already under construction?
I'm demolition. I'm waiting for my permit for that.
Okay. I noticed I saw.
Trustee Tinaglia.
Thanks, Mayor Hayes. So some of us who've been around here for a really, 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 really long time, there used to be a restaurant here called Chez Paul. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yep. Anybody else remember that?
Rolling Meadows.
It was actually right off of Euclid by 53 in the little in the circle down there.
Rolling Meadows.
And so it's, Chez Arlington, sounds great to me. You were commenting on the parking before, and I would caution you on one thing. Never, ever, ever have the mayor's prayer breakfast at your facility. Because there's 6,000 cars that come to that. And when we go to the hotels that we go to now, we park like 6 miles away just to get to the breakfast. So there are some events that your parking calculations and expectations might be off. And I just know that sometimes it's just hard, really hard. So you're the operator. You know what you know. You're going to do what you do. Just got to be careful. That's all. Some of those.
I'm planning for that test already with all my bookings in the future of how many rooms they take. So when we have a wedding, I'm trying to secure as many rooms for that same event.
Right. I don't know if it was Trustee Rosenberg, but if someone like one of our kids gets married and we're here, maybe not everybody's staying in your hotel, but you have a great ballroom like you have had all these years and want to have the party there. So suddenly you've got people staying that have nothing to do with the wedding or the event, like not the prayer breakfast. So the last question I had is Bill, could you go to the exterior elevation rendering? There's something suspiciously missing, and I want to ask you about it. There we go. How are you heating and cooling these units, these individual spaces? Are you planning to use individual through-the-wall unit heaters? Because I don't see the grills under the windows that you would typically have for a hotel. So my assumption is you have some central plant that you're going to use in the building. Okay, tell me what you're doing.
So we are using no grills in the building because AAA would downgrade me to a 3-star hotel. This has to be a 4-star minimum. So we are using something that they use very often in Japan and China, the reverse refrigeration system, VRF. So Toshiba is doing the system in which we use a 4-way pipe system using refrigerant. And there's a BC controller or a computer on each floor that will send, say, if Robin's room wants 30 degrees and Mr. Klaus wants 90, it's sending it to the BC controller and sending the Freon from room to room. We do have some small heat pumps, but it was the first done in Chicago, and it's going to be the first done over here.
So is this in your hotel downtown right now?
Yes, it
Same.
is.
So you're familiar with the operations of it and
It
all
is
that?
extremely quiet.
Yeah.
You can't even hear the fan.
Well, for anyone who's watching or not aware, there's a lot of buildings that you see like this that have these large metal louvers below the windows, and that's where your unit is for a lot of hotels that blows air in and out. And it's not a pretty thing. But as you said, it's probably more of a 3-star or something hotel. So I'm glad to see you're not doing that. I looked at the rendering and said, okay. So good job.
Thank you.
Trustee Padavani.
James, I just wanted to say thank you for your tenacity and for the professionalism and the foresight that you're putting into this project. You mentioned a number of firsts, and with your lobby and with your heating system and with a whole bunch of other stuff, that I think this is going to make your hotel a real standout business for our village and really put us on the map in that respect. So I want to thank you for that, and I'm really impressed with what you're doing here.
Thank you so much.
Trustee Sidor.
Sorry, Mayor, just one last question. James, what's your demographic? Because as Trustee LaBedz was speaking about the space to put stuff, I was in Las Vegas and I stayed at the MGM Park, which is a fairly newly built hotel. And the first thing I said, where am I going to put all my stuff? You know, where am I going to put my bag? You know, it didn't even have one of those, luggage things, and it had no desk. It had a table, and I was. So is that a different demographic? This is the trend? Just educate me quickly.
This is the trend. I mean, the bench in front of the bed is what guests would use to put their luggage on. Most guests are not going to have that luggage rack on site. The desk is really no longer conforming. Everyone brings their iPad or their laptop, and the usage has gone down so much, but guests are increasingly using the room service. So a lot of hotels, you'll see a trend where they'll put a table in lieu of the desk and put 2 chairs. So if two people want to have breakfast or have coffee or tea, vanity space, it's around 4 feet in width. We'd love to get more, but it does get pricey. So we have the makeup mirror built in and 3 mirrors in the room. So we try the best that we can.
But the demographic, I mean, what age group? I mean, do you look at it? Stays typically in a boutique, chic, Shea Arlington type hotel?
Well, we never can. Sometimes at my hotel downtown, I went for the millennials and the 30 plus, and my entire business was 60 plus. So I lean toward one.
What you're saying is I have to bring less stuff if I come to your hotel, right?
Well, you're close, so.
Okay. I'll try to pack more efficiently. Thank you, Mayor.
Or don't bring Robin.
Forget your trunk.
If nothing further, I'd entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Motion to approve by Trustee Sidor, seconded by Trustee Baldino. Any further questions or comments? Anything from the audience? Saying none?
Wait.
Well, we got one. Come forward, Judith. And just give us your name if you would, please.
I'm Judith Royal. I live in Arlington Heights. Do you need the address?
No.
Okay. I was so glad Trustee LaBedz spoke up. I'm looking at the picture and thinking about all my little Ziploc bags with all my little bathroom items and my husband's. And I'm thinking, yes, we bring 2 suitcases. When my daughter comes to our house, her suitcase is as big as the top of this. And she's just coming for 3 days. And I'm appreciative of Mr. Sidor's comments. And mirrors, I'm so glad to hear there's 3 mirrors per room, because as a traveler, there's never enough electrical outlets. I use a lot of electrical gadgets. I won't tell you what kind. And mirrors, there's never enough mirrors with good lighting. So I hope that mirrors with good lighting are part of it. 72-inch TVs, I don't know. As a hotel user, I don't need that. But space is really important, and handicap accessible. I'm not that old, but I'm beginning to realize the value of big doorways. I have used a wheelchair in the last year or 2 when I injured my foot, and my husband and I discovered how important it was to be able to access spaces. We have 2 mothers who are aging. Sometimes we like to take them with us. We're learning that it's very important that doors open easily, because we cannot push the companion chair and deal with the door at the same time. So it wasn't mentioned, and I think the law requires it, but I would say what motivated me to jump up was to make sure that this place is thinking of all age groups, because a lot of young people too have handicaps. And we need to be far more aware of how to make spaces usable, safe, and friendly.
All right, thanks, Judith.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Caceres, and again, we wish you the best of luck in this endeavor. All right, there is no other new business, so we move on to the report of the village manager, Mr. Ecklouse.
Nothing further this evening.
We do have under petitions and communications a bond waiver for the Arlington Heights Chamber of Commerce. I don't know that we need to have a presentation.
No.
Do we? Just a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
By trustee Scaletta, seconded by trustee Padavani. Any further questions or comments? Voice vote okay?
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Riddler. And any other petitions and communications? Well, just congratulations to trustee Padavani for making it through his first meeting. We'll see if he comes back next time.
I'll be here.
All right, and in recognition of your first meeting, why don't you make the motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Padavani, second by trustee LaBedz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.